ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us to this edition of Rezzed.TV presents The Phoenix Hour. I will be your host tonight, all here for once, Phelan Fairchild, and I am with lovely Phoenix Viewer developer, Jessica Lyon. Hello, Jessica.
Hi, Phelan. How are you?
I am good. It's really good to see you.
And you. And everybody here.
We have got a lot on the docket for you. Now, last week, those of us who joined us last week knows that it was a pretty epic event. There's a lot coming to Phoenix Viewer. We've heard some amazing announcements, some wonderful things happening, some amazing developments going on, and one of the most interesting things that we touched on last week in terms of how the upcoming releases will impact you, and we're going to get right to it, was mesh. After last week's show, Jessica, I spoke with quite a few people who were really interested in what was said by the panelists regarding mesh. There seems to be some confusion, and what we'll do right now is clarify some of that confusion to the best of our ability. Some people seem to be under the impression that you will not be able to see mesh on third-party viewers. Linden Lab has not released that mesh code, allegedly. Other people are saying you will be able to see mesh on third-party viewers, but you won't be able to upload mesh on third-party viewers. Other people are saying that there is being developed an independent or third-party plugin that will allow you to utilize mesh in a third-party viewer. So many people are confused as to where third-party viewers, such as Phoenix, stand with mesh. So let's get right to it. Jessica, let's give the definitive answer with regards to mesh and third-party viewers. Will people using Phoenix be able to see mesh objects in Second Life?
Okay, so the best way to answer that is going to be third-party viewers that are running Viewer2 codebase will be able to display mesh objects for their users. In other words, providing the third-party viewer you're on is on a Viewer2 codebase, you will be able to see mesh objects created by others. As of the time of our last office hour, it was unclear to be certain that Linden Lab was going to allow third-party viewers to upload mesh. Now, recently, just a couple days ago, we had a meeting with Linden Lab. All the third-party viewers did, and a discussion ensued, and Linden Lab is looking into a way of providing a type of a wrapper that would basically give third-party viewers the capability of uploading mesh objects. It's a bit of a workaround way, but it will work. It's still kind of tentative, and Linden Lab is working on some documentation for how third-party viewers are going to go about that. So, to be clear, 1.23 and Snow Globe viewers will not be able to see mesh objects, and they will not be able to upload mesh objects. Viewer 2 based third-party viewers will be able to see mesh objects, and if luck has it our way and Linden Lab pulls through with a wrapper that we can use to provide uploads, then you will also be able to upload mesh objects on third-party viewers that are on a Viewer 2 codebase.
So just to expound upon that, no longer will you be able to use any viewer with the 1.x interface. You will have to gravitate toward, be it the official Viewer 2 or a third-party viewer that utilizes Viewer 2 code. So
right.
It seems to me the ultimate way to sort of motivate people to gravitate toward Viewer 2 codebase. And also, as you said, there was some question about how long it was going to take Phoenix to implement Viewer 2 codebase. What is your timeline on that?
So our Viewer 2 codebase is going to be called Firestorm. We will have two viewers. We'll have the Phoenix viewer and the Firestorm viewer. Phoenix will be as it is now. Firestorm will be Viewer 2 code-based. Our focus on Firestorm will be the UI initially, and then porting features from Phoenix into the Firestorm. And by features, I mean Phoenix-specific features like avatar list and things like that. Probably 3 to 6 months before we're close to a beta. Another thing I want to clear up is that we're not forcing people to move to Firestorm Viewer 2. We will continue development on Phoenix, but it's going to be a little bit less. We have this big release coming out, and then development will continue on it, but it will be mostly bug fixes and minor things.
Okay. And if anybody has any questions with regard to that, please send them towards the end of the hour. And you can send your questions directly to me. You can also send them live offline using Cover It Live at phoenix.rezzed.TV or directly to me in the audience. All right, so Jessica, moving on, because we've got a lot to cover today. The big topic of today is lag. Boy, let's say, is there anybody in this audience who doesn't know what lag is? I'd ask for a show of hands, but I think that would be redundant. Lag. So what we want to do is address some of the facts, myths, and misconceptions about lag. As Jessica has illustrated so beautifully in her note to me, she said, don't need to explain what lag is. And that's true. We all know. So, Jessica, why don't we get to what the three basic kinds of lag are, what we experience when we suffer these sort of these lag behinds?
Right. So, yeah, I wanted to pull away from a Phoenix discussion today and into the realm of lag, because there's a lot of misconceptions going on. People are getting banned because of their ARC count from regions. And I think it's something that needs to be discussed and educated, and have people spread the knowledge a little bit. And so I'm going to start with the fact that everybody knows what lag is in Second Life, and there's a couple different kinds of lag. I'm going to touch on the basics of the most popular, the most common kinds of lag. And the first misconception is that lag is Second Life's fault. The reality is lag is the user's fault in most cases. And you'll start to understand that as we go a little bit further. There is some lag that belongs to Lynn and Lab. But so the first kind of lag we're going to discuss is render lag. And before I start, I'm just going to say that I have written a very long note card so I don't forget everything or anything, because I don't have a photographic memory. So if I sound like I'm reading once in a while, it's probably because I am. So what is render lag? Render lag affects your frames per second, your ability to move your camera around smoothly, and the time it takes to load textures. Myth number 1, render lag affects everyone equally. This is false. The amount of lag you experience depends on your graphics settings, the quality of your computer, and your video card. And yes, actually I can. I'll have to clean up the note card, Chris. I can make this public. I'll put it on our wiki, in fact. It's a bit of a mess, though. It's mostly just little notes for me here. So the first thing we're going to cover is avatar render cost, the drama of Second Life lag. So what is avatar render cost? First of all, you can get to it from advanced. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. Advanced rendering info displays avatar render cost. And for those of you that don't know what it basically displays a digit above your head, which is supposed to represent how much lag you cause to other people. So avatar render cost is a loose calculation based on the textures and prims worn on an avatar. The more prims and the more unique textures worn, and the size of those textures affects the overall render cost. There's more information about render cost. I'm going to post a link here. And it should show up on your screen for those viewing on the stream. Oops, I whispered that.
You.
Right. Okay, technical difficulties. I'm having lag problems. Okay, myth about ARC. ARC lags the simulator. This is false. ARC is a measurement of render lag. Render lag affects the viewer side, not the server side. So this business of people banning folks because their avatar render cost is high is, well, they're misinformed, and we need to inform them. ARC and render cost has no effect on the sim. Another myth about avatar render cost is that it affects my ability to teleport. This is false. Scripts are the main cause of teleport failures. Your avatar render cost has nothing to do with teleport failures. It's almost always about scripts or server-side fail. Another myth. Scripts affect my avatar render cost. This is false. You can't render a script, and therefore scripts have no effect on your avatar render cost. Am I coming through okay? I see people saying they can't hear. Okay. Another myth. My arc only affects those around me. This is false as well. It affects you and everyone around you, because you also have to render your own avatar. And so when people say that your avatar is lagging me, well, then it's also lagging you. And here's a misconception. And this is a good one, and this is important that people understand this. The misconception is that ARC is an accurate representation of how much lag an avatar causes. Totally false. ARC was never accurate. In fact, Linen Lab even admitted this openly when they implemented it in several of their blogs. And I wish I had links to those blogs still, but I don't. Linen Lab did state that avatar render cost is an estimated way of calculating render lag. And I can give you some examples, and I'm going to, because there are doubters who say, no, avatar render cost is accurate. So for an example, there are megaprims that exist in Second Life that are really, really big. In fact, they're too big for the viewer to be able to render them. 65,000 meters by 65,000 meters by 65,000 meters. I can wear one of those on every one of my attachment points. And I will have a gazillion render cost, but it will have no effect on anybody here or myself. There will be no lag caused from it. So the very fact that avatar render cost goes up, even though it doesn't affect you or lag around me, is a pretty good indicator that avatar render cost is not accurate. Another example is if you camera away from your avatar a little bit and enable your avatar render cost, and you'll see the digit above your head. If you zoom into your avatar, most of the time you'll notice that the render cost goes up or down. It changes depending on how close or far your camera is to your avatar. If avatar render cost was accurate, it wouldn't do that. It would give you a number, and that would stick. So, ARC is an estimated representation of how much render lag or viewer side lag an avatar creates. This affects users' frames per second. Another misconception, only avatars have render lag. And this is false. Objects also have render costs. Consider how ARC is calculated. The size of and the number of unique textures on a given number of prim surfaces. Prims all have render costs, but the viewer doesn't provide a way to calculate it, unlike with ARC. PB, can just send your questions over to Phelan in IM. So every object and every unique texture on every object adds to render lag in a sim. So how to reduce lag? So this is big. And this is, I really hope content creators, and especially the stores out there, can pay attention to this. So for an example, I often go to a store in Second Life, and the textures on the vendors are usually 512 by 512 or even 1024 by 1024 in size. These are huge and require more time for the vendor or for the viewer to download, thus resulting in gray textures that take forever to load. We all know about that. Things like vendors with small objects that have small textures can get away with a 256 by 256 or a 128 by 128 texture. This also applies to textures on all objects in Second Life. The smaller the object is, the smaller the texture can be without affecting the quality of it. But if you're texturing a large object, like a house or a wall on a house, then you might have to upload a larger texture. So how do you tell how big the textures are on a given object? You edit it, right-click Edit, and you go Control-Alt-Shift-T, and it will print out a little thing in your local chat window that gives you the size of the textures that are on that object. And in most of the cases, you'll go to vendors and do that, and you'll discover that they're using really big textures. And this is why things take so long to render at a given store. And so a little bit of info on how to, so texture sizes starts outside of Second Life. So you make a texture in Photoshop or PaintShop Pro or Microsoft Paint or whatever it is you're using, and you save it as a 512 by 512 or 1024 by 1024 or a 256 by 256 and so on, and then you upload it into Second Life. Now, depending on what you're texturing, you may want to upload a couple different versions. So if you have a small prim, you can put a small texture on it. If you have a large prim, you can put a larger texture on it. The smaller the textures, the less time it takes to render those textures for everybody. So I hope that makes sense about render lag. And aside from reducing the graphic settings and draw distance, there is no way for you to reduce render lag for yourself caused by other people who lack this knowledge. But if we can all spread the word and spread the knowledge, SL will be a much better place. So let's start the movement against lag. So that's going to cover render lag. The next kind of lag that people come across is script lag. And a lot of people don't understand script lag and how it affects things. So I felt it was important to talk about this. So a myth about script lag. People with lots of scripts lag my avatar and make it hard for me to camera around. Completely false. Script lag doesn't affect rendering or viewer side in any way. Script lag affects the performance of a simulator and the performance of other scripts within that simulator. Another myth, and I apologize if I'm going quickly. We're on a time limit, and I have a lot to talk about. So, another myth, script count always equals more load on the simulator. This is also false. We have in the viewer the ability to right-click on an avatar and check their script count, how many scripts they have on their avatar. Script performance is measured in units of time, not number of scripts. Some scripts will use less time than other scripts. Thus, script count is not an accurate measurement. However, it's safe to assume that the more scripts will equal more script time. So script time is calculated in milliseconds. Here's a few facts. Every sim has 22 milliseconds of script time allocated to it. Unfortunately, only people with estate tools can see how much script time a particular avatar or object is using, and that's done through the estate tools. So if you're not an estate owner, there currently is no way to tell how much script time that you're running or creating or using. Script time is calculated on avatars by the amount of script time all of their worn scripts are using. So that includes your hair, your bracelet, your shoes, all of the resizer scripts in your avatar. Those are all calculated together to give a number in milliseconds of how much script time you're using overall. Here's an interesting fact. A default script, new script, so when you create an object and add a new script, uses 0.002 milliseconds of time. And there are many variables that will affect script time in a script. And I won't go into detail because I could talk about that for hours. But one of the things that affects script time in a script is the number of events. So I'll try to explain that a little bit. A new script, if you create a new script, you're going to see inside a state entry and a touch start. Those are two events. The more events a script has, the higher the script time will be. There are many other things that can raise script time in a script, but I'll say that the more events the script does, or the more the script does, the more time it will use. So, what happens when a sim reaches its 22 millisecond script time limit and surpasses it? First of all, very slow script responses. So, if you're in a sim with a lot of scripts, and they're all using up a lot of time, more than 22 milliseconds of time, and I'll show you later on how to find that out. When you click on, say you have a HUD and you click it, and it's supposed to bring up a dialog, sometimes it takes a little while for that dialog to open up, and that's because the script is reacting slowly, because the sim is trying to manage too many scripts all at the same time. Where does script lag, or how does script lag affect you? So the more script will slow down the response time of a script. There's also the mono bug. It's known as the mono bug, and I'll try to explain that. So when you make a script and you save it, there's a pause during that save time, and that pause is because the sim is compiling that script, and it's saving it to the asset server. When an avatar enters the sim and the avatar is wearing scripts, the simulator has to recompile all the scripts worn on that avatar. So you might notice, and I think everybody's noticed this, that when avatars enter or start entering and leaving sims, the sim locks up momentarily, sometimes longer than others. This is due to the scripts being compiled by the sim, and it's especially obvious with scripts compiled in mono. So first of all, how to reduce script time? For example, mono takes longer to compile, to put it in basic terms, and the combat community discovered this pretty quickly. When mono scripts came out, they were compiling their bullet scripts with mono in them. And so every time they fired a bullet, the viewer had to recompile that script after every single bullet. So if they shoot 100 bullets with, some kind of a machine gun, the simulator has to compile 100 scripts really, really quickly. And so this is where script time comes in. The more scripts an avatar is wearing, the longer the sim will lock up on teleport. And this is the primary cause for teleport failures. If you have too many scripts, and it just takes too long to disconnect from one sim and reconnect to another sim, you will have a teleport failure. So you can't save yourself from the lag effects due to too many scripts. However, you can reduce load time by checking how many scripts you're wearing by right-clicking script count. So you right-click on your avatar, choose script count in Phoenix. Most of the time it's your hair. You're going to discover that you have 150 prims in your hair, and every single one of those prims has a script in it. And this brings me to a pet peeve. So resize scripts in every prim is totally unnecessary in my opinion, and a failure on behalf of the content creator. That's right, I said it. Only one script in the root is needed to resize all prims in a link set. Any half-decent scripter knows this and knows how to do it, but most content creators don't because it's easier just to throw a script in every prim. This is laziness. This is a pet peeve. Can you tell? It makes me angry. If you're a content creator who uses resize scripts in every prim, please do us all a favor and look up LL set link primitive parameters and learn how to use it. Save us all. Okay, so I finished my little rant. We're all okay.
I think that deserves an applause.
It really makes me angry. It really does. I can't tell you. I'll just pause for a second here. I can't tell you how many really nice boots I bought that I refuse to wear because they're no modify and I can't take the scripts out, and there's 100 scripts in each boot. And this is what's killing Second Life. I mean, this is what's causing all the lag.
So out of all the different types of lag that you mentioned, what do you think is the one that people suffer with the most? Do you think it's actually render lag, where they're in a place similar to this, trying to render a bunch of textures, a bunch of different avatars all simultaneously? So is that the one that
right now, us here right now are suffering from render lag in a big way. I've got 9 frames per second here if I'm lucky, and I've got a very low draw distance. And this is because my viewer is downloading all the textures that everybody's wearing, including the textures on their hair, their boots, their textures on their pants, you name it. And so the more textures there are, the more render lag you're going to suffer.
Right.
We're not suffering from script lag because they have scripts turned off here. And so turned off scripts aren't going to cause script lag in a sim.
That's really interesting because we don't usually stop to think about what kind of lag we're experiencing in order to combat it. We just know that usually we're experiencing lag and like to complain if you're anything like me.
Well, this is the thing, right? And this is the key, and this is why I want to cover this, is that I want people to be educated on this and then spread the word. Because the only way we're going to kick lag's butt is if we spread the word and inform people of what's causing the problem. There are content creators putting scripts in every prim because they don't know. They don't know the lag that they're causing. And so that's why I wanted to I really felt it important to cover this.
Well, what's really interesting is it's going to definitely change the shopping habits of myself next time I go buy a hair that has
Absolutely.
a resize prim in every single solitary, the 200 prims in it.
It drives me nuts.
That can be really
and I can't tell you how many
awful.
nice outfits that I have that I refuse to wear. I would love to be able to wear. Actually, and just a note, there's a new function now called LL set link params fast, and so a lot of content creators use set link primitive params. If you use the fast method, look it up on the wiki, LSL Porter, and it's fast. A lot of people say, well, they do a link or a script in every prim because it's faster. Well, this method is very fast too.
So how do we educate? How do we educate? I would say that, you know what, I'm a big mouth. I don't think I need to tell anybody that here in this room, do I? No, you know what, I think that it's not entirely inappropriate. If you've bought hair, or you've bought shoes, or you've bought something that seems to be a little excessive, that you should write the content creator and very kindly and politely say, did you know that all of these scripts can inhibit the user experience? And well, then it becomes mod, and I think a big misconception is that mod means stealable, and that's not so.
That's not
People
true.
are terrified of modifying.
A lot of content creators make things no mod because they think it makes it harder for people to steal their items, and that's another myth. And that's a myth for another show, in fact. But making your wearable items no mod has no effect on copy bots. They will steal it whether it's modified, whether it has no permissions at all. It will be stolen.
That's right, girl. Let's do the weave right off your head. Let me tell you what, it has happened to me. I've seen it.
I've had it happen to me.
Scary.
Okay,
Absolutely
so
terrifying.
I still have quite a bit here.
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so the next
Deep
thing
breath.
is physics lag. And I'll go through this quick because I want to show you guys the statistics bar. I hope I can get time to do that. So physics lag, a myth. The more physical objects in a sim, the harder it is on the sim. This is not entirely true. What causes physics lag is collisions of those objects. Objects sitting still are not colliding, and thus have far less effect on the sim. Not no effect. They do still have some effect, but it's when they're colliding that they cause the most problems for the simulator. And so every time a physical object bumps into something, whether something that's non-physical or physical or even the floor, the physics engine, which is Havoc in Second Life, has to make mathematical calculations to determine how to react to that collision. How does that prim bounce? Does it bounce to the left? Does it bounce to the right? And so on. So the more collisions that are happening in the sim, the more calculations the sim has to make, and the slower the sim will be. Here's a fun fact. You are all physical. Avatars are physical objects. So how does physical lag affect you? It affects your ability to move around smoothly. So when you're trying to move, so when you're trying to move around and your avatar's just not moving, so a lot of physics collisions will cause a sim to pretty much choke. This is why it's such a popular griefer tactic with replicating physical prims. And enough of them will actually kill or crash a sim. So script lag and physics lag both contribute to simulator performance degradation. Render lag has nothing to do with the sim lag. So when you're at a store and somebody says your avatar render cost is so high you're lagging the sim, you can kindly tell them, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Okay, statistics bar. So this is a big one, and I believe that Rezzed.TV are going to put the link across the screen here for our viewers on the stream. So I'm going to put the link here and send it in World for you guys in the audience. And you don't necessarily have to go to this page now, but I would like you guys to go to it a little bit later. So first of all, what is the statistics bar? Let's open it up. Control-Shift-1, or you can get to it from View, Statistics bar. And I'd like everyone to follow along with me in the statistics bar, so you'll be able to relate to what I'm saying. So what is it? Statistics bar is a tool that provides lots of different kinds of information related to performance, your network, render performance, simulator performance, and lots more. So everybody has their statistics bar open. Control-Shift-1 to open it. And you may need to drag it a little bit bigger so you can see stuff in there. So let's start with basic. And that link that I gave you guys, I'm just going to talk about very basic stuff here. There's a lot more stuff in depth in that link that I've posted to the wiki. So the basics, frames per second, and that is your frame rate. It reflects how smooth or choppy your graphics performance is. This varies depending on the performance of the video card on your computer, and also how busy the sim is that you're in. Bandwidth, and by business I mean render lag. Bandwidth, and this is up near the top, I hope everyone's following. The amount of data being sent and received between your computer and Second Life. A little fun fact, this is not a good gauge for anything. Packet loss, oh boy, #1 support issue. Packet loss is the amount of data being lost caused by usually poor internet connection, connection to the sim, or the bandwidth setting in your preferences network is too high. Packet loss can cause all kinds of problems, so can ping sim. And ping sim is the time it takes data to go from your computer to the simulator. And a good ping time is usually between 250 to about 250. I've seen some that are a bit higher. When you start having packet loss, your ping sim is probably pretty high. And if your ping sim is higher than 250, or you're starting to lose packet loss, again, check your internet connection. Speedtest.net is a good website for that. Make sure you have a good upload and download speed, and check your preferences. I'm running out of time. Okay, I've got to hurry up. Advanced. There's a lot of stuff in advanced, and I'm not going to go through it. But again, use that link, and you'll learn all kinds of stuff about it. I just want to cover the stuff that's really the most important. So, simulator. You might have to double-click that to expand it. I'm not sure if it's automatically expand for people. So time dilation. This reflects the performance of the sim, most affected by physics, but heavy script load will also have an effect. Avatars entering and leaving the sim will have a huge effect, and especially if they're wearing a lot of scripts. The next thing is, so a 1.0 is a perfect time dilation, a very healthy sim. 0.2 is a sim that's getting close to dying. 0.0 is a sim that's about to go ding. Simulator frames per sec. The frames per second that the simulator is running, the maximum frames per sec that a simulator can run is 45. Physics frames per sec should be about the same as sim frames per sec, but I don't think it's a very good gauge. I could be wrong. Physics details we're going to skip. You guys can learn that on the wiki page. Agent updates per second. So your avatar sends information to the sim on a constant basis. This is how the sim knows where you are. And as an example, when you do Control-Alt-P, Phantom, basically your avatar stops sending data, some of that data, to the simulator. And that's why objects pass through you, because the sim doesn't know where you are. And that's how people can't grief you so easily. So the next thing is main agents. This is interesting. It's the number of avatars in the sim. So right now we have 70 agents in the sim. Am I looking at that right? 69, sorry. Child agents is the number of avatars in neighboring sims. So if there was 3 sims around this one, and there's avatars in there, it would count those as child agents. Objects is the amount of objects in the sim. Active objects is the amount of objects in the sim that have scripts in them. Active scripts is the number of active scripts in the sim. So you may have objects that have scripts that aren't running. They'll count, but they won't count as active. Active scripts is the number of scripts that are running. Script events is the number of events taking place between the scripts in the sim. Now remember I told you a little bit about script events. And packets in and out, well, see the link on the wiki page. So here's some interesting stuff. Pending downloads. When you res an object, where are we? When you res an object, open a script or a note card and try to wear clothing, this is considered a download request. It's sending information from the asset server to the simulator. And if the asset server is suffering or the sim is suffering, there will be a delay seen. During this delay, these requests get queried in the order that they were received and initiated in that order. In some cases, and you guys will know this, fails completely, and the message you get are things like fail to res object, you lack permissions to view note card or script. So when you start seeing that, you can open up your statistics bar and take a look at pending uploads and pending downloads. And that will tell you if it's a problem with you, or a problem with the sim, or a problem with the asset server. Pending uploads is similar. When you save a script, save a note card, save an outfit, take an object to inventory, this is an upload request to the asset server. Again, if the asset server sim is suffering, this goes into a query, and fails include unable to save. Okay, so now I'd like everyone to jump down at the bottom. There's a little thing called time with milliseconds. Let me just get it open here. Okay, so total frame time. This is the amount of time, this is the amount of script time that I told you about. This is the amount of script time that the sim has to work with. We'll jump down to script time, the amount of time used by those scripts. And then spare time is the amount of script time the sim has left. Now you can see this on any simulator. So this simulator, for example, is total frame time of about 24 milliseconds, and script time is about 10 milliseconds, 11 milliseconds, and it's going to jump a little bit. So it's using up about half of the time that the sim has for scripts. So I'm pretty much out of time here as of 7 minutes ago. So I'm going to send you some links on how to reduce lag and some more information about some lag. And that'll come up on your screen for those that are streaming. Let me just hit enter here. And I would like everybody to educate yourselves on lag. And that's it. I'm done. So I think we're going to cut to a commercial.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, and we will be back after a message from our sponsors.
Last year, VWE brought to you the biggest event in SL Sports Entertainment. Once a year, an event comes along so big that people remember. Setting the records, making names. It is a night of champions, a night of superstars, and a night of legends. And 1 year later, it's back. December 10th, 2010, 4 p.m. SL time. VWE brings to you Wrestle Series 2, live only on Rezzed.TV.
Sometimes I can feel it.
Welcome back to the Phoenix Hour, everybody. I'm Phelan Fairchild here with Jessica Lyon, Phoenix developer, and we're discussing the implications of lag and what exactly it means to the users, the different types of lag. Jessica, you had a few things that you wanted to add from our last segment.
Well, there was one thing, and it may be in the question list. It was just brought up during the commercial break, and I think it's important that people note that the size of the avatar has nothing to do with how much lag that avatar creates. You could be this 10, 20, 30-foot avatar, and the size of it is not going to make any difference. It's the size of the textures that are on that avatar that cause the lag.
So a larger avatar doesn't necessarily mean a larger consumption of resources.
That's right, yeah.
That makes sense. Are you ready for your questions, Jessica?
I'm ready for
Because
my
it looks
questions.
like everybody has one today. And we've got some really interesting questions, too. So what we'll do is we'll get right to it. We're going to start with PB Quandary asks, does the fact that Linden Lab has 6, 7, and 8 regions running on each server affect lag? That's a good question, actually.
It's a good question. They actually have, if they're Homestead Sims, there are 8 per CPU. If there are regular Sims, they are 4 per CPU. And I will say that if say you've got 4 regions, and that doesn't mean that they have to be neighboring to be on the same CPU. Usually they're scattered around the grid. So if one of those 4 Sims is being griefed by physical replicators, for example, yeah, you may find that the other 3 simulators may start degrading in performance unexplained. You just can't, you don't know why, because you don't know what the other sims that are attached to that sim is as far as the CPU goes. So that will have some effect, yes.
That's really interesting. There was always some question, as long as I could remember, actually, if there were implications on a region based on the activities on another region that shared the same simulator. Okay, we're going to move directly on. Wolf Baginski Bearsfoot. I just love that name. Wants to know how does tiling a small texture across a prim affect texture and render lag? Small download, but a lot of pixels to render. And that's a really good question. Does the amount of space that it's occupying, and if there's more than one face, increase the amount of resources that it consumes?
No, it doesn't. So you can tile a texture 1,000 times, and it's still that same original texture. So, for example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides to a cube, and you can put that texture on that cube on each side. The viewer only downloads that texture once. And if you tile that texture 100 times, it's still only being downloaded once.
All right, J.R. Seela wants to know, the current Viewer 2 UI is a total disaster. He says, undock and redocking windows with limited resizable abilities and lack of semi-transparency while changing focus from one to the other creates a huge problem with building. Will Firestorm have true tear-off windows?
I would love to say yes, absolutely, for sure. I'll say that I hope so. We're going to do our best. The trouble with the UI in Viewer 2 is that, unlike the UI in 1.23 and Snow Globe Viewers, where you can pretty much just change an XML file and you've changed the UI, with Firestorm, the UI is nested in the code, and in some cases in very deep layers, layer after layer. And so changing the UI in Viewer 2 is going to be a lot of work, and we can't make any promises. I'll tell you, in a perfect world, it's going to look just like the Firestorm UI, but it's not a perfect world, and Viewer 2 is not perfect. So the best I can do is say that, we're going to make it look as familiar as we can. We're going to make it look as 1.23 as we can. But we can't promise on how far we're going to get with that. Have some faith, though. We're trying.
Jessica, you've made a lot of statements and about lag and things that can really benefit people as far as expounding upon our knowledge with regards to it in his virtual residence. That's something that most of us deal with daily. And a lot of people would like access to the note card. Somebody wants to know, you did say that you were going to put it on the wiki, but some people said there were people that would prefer not to have to go to a wiki or sift through information. Would there be a way for you to put that out as a group notice as well?
I could probably do that, yeah. But when I say wiki, I don't mean the Second Life wiki. There are some good articles on the Second Life wiki about lag. What I've written in my note card here is mostly just notes for me. I can modify them into a wiki article, and I would post them on our wiki, phoenixviewer.com, and it's not nearly as cluttered as the Second Life wiki, and I would provide a link directly to it in a group notice.
Okay. Also, from the same resident,
And the forum.
she asks, can you enlighten people about the resizers, please? Not all of us use the one script per prim. So, I mean, I'm not exactly sure if there are scripts that can call functions from items that don't have scripts in them in order to resize. They very well may. Are there different types of resizers that can reduce the amount of... Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, when I buy a hair that has one script in it and it resizes all the prims, I will personally message that content creator and give them a 1-hour date with me. It only takes one script to resize all the prims in a link set. You don't have to have a script in every single prim. And content creators who follow this rule in my books win. Content creators who follow the rule of putting a script in every prim, in my books, in my personal opinion, fail and will not get kudos from me.
So what we want to do then is educate people. Next time you go buy a hair, if you see something like that, don't presume that you're being imposing by offering something that can benefit them, their business, and also the world that we have to function in. Because I tell you what, I love hair, but I don't like making room for it to do things that it shouldn't.
And I'll tell you what else. Another thing that will work is it's one of the problems is you can't really tell in a, the hair is in a box and you can't tell how many scripts are in the hair, and they don't advertise that. But to contact the content creator first and ask them how they have resizers set up. In some of them, and I will give them the benefit of this, is that some of them have the ability in the dialogue to delete the scripts. Those aren't too bad. Those are pretty good. So you set the hair the way you like it, and you can use the dialogue that it provides, and it deletes the scripts, and they're gone. Those are good. I'll give kudos to those content creators. It's the people that put a script, and sometimes 2 scripts in every prim, because sometimes, so there's resizing prims, and then there's recoloring prims. And a lot of content creators will put a recoloring script in every single prim. So you'll have a hair with 256 prims or 255 prims with 500 and some scripts in it, and you wonder why we have problems in Second Life. You're not going to teleport with 500 scripts. It's not going to happen, and if it does, you're lucky. I would say for everybody here and everybody listening and everybody who listens to this in the future, do a script count on your hair. Right-click on your hair, click script count. Do a script count on your boots. Find out how much script lag you're causing the simulator. I think people discover that teleports, when you're not wearing 500 scripts, go like boom, really fast.
Komnak Hoffnung. Swear to God, I didn't just cough or sneeze. That's a resident with us today. Komnak Hoffnung would like to know, do 4 LSL scripts cause more lag than one mono script that has the functions of 4 LSL scripts combined?
That's a good question. And you know what? I'm not sure how to answer that. It depends on the script. It depends what's in the other scripts. It's always better to use less scripts. Even an empty script with nothing in it, no events at all, is still 0.002 milliseconds of script time that's being used, even though it's doing nothing. So you're always better to try to make your scripts efficient and try to do as much in one script as you can rather than 4. But if you don't need to use mono, don't use mono. You don't need mono. The advantages to mono is it stores, so every script has memory, a certain amount of memory. Mono gives you more memory in that script. So if you're storing lists and things like that, if the script is storing information, you might need to use mono because you might run out of memory in the script. Otherwise, don't use mono. The speed increase of a mono script is marginal, and mono it's a good idea because it does store more memory, but it's not your everyday type of script. Use an LSL script without mono if you can.
Let's go on Rumor Patrol for a minute, Jessica. And I don't know if you're in a position to confirm this at all, but somebody says that they've heard that LSL will be replaced with C, as far as scripting language goes, with no real backward compatibility except via mono. And they ask your opinion on that. Is that accurate?
Not as far as I know. I've heard that rumor as well, but I don't believe so. TechWolf, if you want to answer that or type the answer for me, and I'll read it out to people.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, as far as that, they did have plans for C#, but that was before the major Linden Lab layoffs, and the scripting roadmap was pretty much eliminated. The layoffs and everything else. So the only thing that's on the scripting roadmap right now is to fix this mono bug that everybody talks about, which causes the sim to freeze on every teleport in and out. LSLs is here to stay, so they don't break scripts. Mono will be fixed as far as performance-wise, and that's about it on the scripting roadmap. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And yeah,
thank you, TechWolf.
It's very unlikely that Linden Lab is going to break LSL, because that would break everything in Second Life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tech with Lapindo, thank you very much. All right, Sun Queen Ginsburg asked a question. She says, and I'm going to, forgive me, I'm going to take her question and put it in my own words. She's got a prim, and she's using a large prim on the top, and she's on each of the four sides. A large texture on the top, and each of the four sides, she's using a different texture that's a large texture, but it's squished down. The faces are, it's smaller.
Right.
And she wants to know if the smaller squished texture, even though it's larger in size, is occupying as much space. Does it still require that large download?
The size of the prim has nothing to do with how big the texture is. So you can put a 1024 texture on a tiny, tiny, tiny little prim, and all the viewers still have to download that 1024 texture. For a tiny little prim, you can get away with a 64 by 64 texture. So if you can, basically when you import your textures into Second Life, when you're creating things, think of what you're going to be using it on and how big that item is that you're going to be using it on. If it's going to be a small item, scale down the image and save it as a 64 by 64 or 128 by 128. If it's going on a big wall, or say it's going on a prim that's going to become grass across your sim, then you're going to want a 1024 by 1024. So the size of the prim, so if you put a 1024 on a tiny prim, it's still a 1024 by 1024 texture.
So bigger isn't always better.
Right.
Okay. Moving right along, we're going to go to Deacon Gears. Hello, Deacon. Deacon says he's having problems getting voice to work. And, it looks like, well, dear Deacon in the audience, I answered his question for him in small little I am we had, so we're going to move on. This is an interesting one from What Denzel. His name's What Denzel. Hi, What Denzel asks, Jessica, what about chat lag, and what type of lag is that? We all experience that. Is that Linden lag?
Right. Okay. So I did say that most lag is caused by the user, not all lag. Chat lag is thanks to Linden Lab, and no fault necessarily of their own. And the good news is that Linden Lab is doing some huge upgrades to chat and how chat works, and increasing our group limit from 25 to 40. And they said they would do that within the final quarter of this year, I believe. Group chat lag is Linden Lab's server side. There's nothing any of us can do about that, nothing the viewer can do about that. And it isn't always necessarily because the group has a lot of people in it. It affects all groups across the grid, right across, and sometimes more than others. And I couldn't tell you exactly what causes it other than load.
Okay. Let's move right along. We've got just a few minutes left, ladies and gentlemen, so any of your final questions, please feel free to send over to me. Jessica, you and I have worked a lot in security on other events. We've worked together. We know the challenges and how there's usually little loopholes for people to slip things in. Brent Silverblade asks quite an intriguing question. What about scripts in HUDs like Easy Tool or Misty Tool, which works even in places with scripts turned off? Does the note card in the context of an object such as that, do they contribute to lag?
If it's a running script, it's contributing to lag. And the fact that it runs even in a no script, sim AOs, for example, will continue to run even when you enter a sim that has no scripts. And it does that using a function called take controls, and that takes controls just like a vehicle. If you sit in a car and you start driving that car, you can drive it through a sim that has no scripts enabled, and it will continue to drive. But if you sit up from it and then sit back down, it won't work anymore, because as soon as you sit up, the script turns off. The sim turns off the script. So it's taking controls of your avatar is giving controls to the script to run in a no-script zone. So the fact that it's running, though, is still using up script time. Also, interesting to note, right-click script count in Phoenix Viewer does not count HUD scripts. It can't count the scripts in a HUD. It'll only count the scripts that are worn visibly on the avatar.
Okay, we have a question from Lyrical Popstar, who asked a question more specific to Phoenix. And she says, why are so many users having problems with appearing naked to others? And is there a way to fix that?
Big fail. Right. Oh, I'm really glad that came up because, so I have this little pet peeve. Back when Linen Lab rolled out server 1.40, this nifty thing started appearing on the grid, which was basically avatars. Some of the symptoms, there's variations to this, and I'll try to cover it quickly here. So some of the symptoms are that I look fine to myself, but everyone else sees me naked, or I see myself naked, but everyone else sees me normal. Or my avatar, the face of my avatar is black, or there's a whole variation of things like that, and this is called bake fail. And one thing that we found that seems to be common in bake fail is that if you do Control-Shift-1 to open your statistics bar, and you're having bake fail, you'll probably notice you have a really high ping sim, which is your connection to the simulator is poor. I'll say this, the bake fail, I call it bake fail, that's not the official term for it, I don't think there is one. It affects all viewers all across the grid. Everybody's being affected by it, some more than others. I know that support is dealing probably with about 100 or 200 a day, people that are having bake fail problems. And just quickly how to fix it. Best thing is to contact support, but try advanced, character test, test male, or test female. And that will return your avatar to Ruth, hopefully, if it works well. And then you can, for some reason, it usually fixes it. I can't explain bake fail or what's causing it. Linen Lab is aware of it, but they don't know what's causing it either. But it is server side.
Okay, moving on, we're going to get right to the next question. Xander Roxley wants to know, and this is another really good question, how we expect mesh will impact our performance and lag.
That's a good question. I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I have a feeling it's going to have a fairly significant effect on render lag, and it depends on how people make their meshes. It depends on how much texture those meshes have. I've played on the mesh on the beta grid on the mesh viewer, and I'm not particularly in awe about mesh. It doesn't particularly amaze me. In fact, I think I'm a little bit disappointed about it, but I will say that it's still in very much beta, and it needs a lot of work, and will get a lot of work before it's rolled out to the main grid. I don't know how to answer that. I can't answer that accurately without having more experience.
Okay. All right, let's get right to the next one. Poppy Braveheart asks, saving images is PNG and TGA. When we upload a file, we have an option to choose which format we'd like to save it in. Is it only the size that matters, or is it also the format?
Does size matter?
Glad you went there, honey. I was not going.
So TGA allows for alpha textures. So if you have some part of the texture that is alpha or see-through or transparent, usually you'll want to use TGA for that. I don't think it makes a difference in file size as far as how much data gets downloaded from the viewer. So if I upload one texture as a TGA and one as the other as a PNG, I'm pretty sure they're going to have the same amount of data that needs to be sent. I could be wrong.
Okay. Now, here's something that has been asked quite a little bit, and we're going to actually be saying goodbye very soon. And Jessica, since we've had questions regarding this, I think it's really important for us to address this. Tuesday before last, during the last Phoenix Hour that we had here, we introduced you to the Phoenix donation bird that was sitting on this very stage behind us. A lot of people would like to know where they can donate to the Phoenix Bird, and if you could once again just briefly explain how that works.
Okay, so we do have monthly costs, which is our server costs. Our first 2 months were fairly expensive for us, but from now on, the months ahead won't be nearly as much. Now, we put out a donation thing on our website. It was up there for about maybe 3 hours until we reached the goal, which was about $440. And in the meantime, people are also donating to our Phoenix Viewer Donations memo avatar. And that avatar now has enough money in it already to cover us for probably the next 2 months. Also, we've got AdSense on the website now. If you scroll down to the bottom of the website, the best way to contribute, believe it or not, click the ads. It's paying our bills. And so that's going to be, basically, I don't think we're going to be asking for donations anymore. I still have people donating to the bird. And it occurred to me I can take the widget off the website so people can't donate money anymore through that, but they can still donate to the bird. And they keep doing so. And I'm going to say, please don't donate to the bird anymore. It's got lots of money. It's going to cover us for at least the next 2 months. And from there, our Google AdSense is going to cover our costs beyond that. You can only click one ad per day. It only counts once per day.
So if you want to do something good on behalf of the Phoenix development team, go to the website and click on an ad.
They're down at the bottom. I hid them because I don't like ads on the website. But
why don't you briefly give the URL to the Phoenix website?
Right, so it's http://phoenixviewer.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, that's all the time that we have today. If we didn't get to your questions, I do apologize. Unfortunately, we're limited by the time that we're given. So, and of course, we can't hold Miss Jessica up here hostage all day, but I'm sure that she'll love to stay for a few moments afterward and answer your questions. I particularly think she'll appreciate the one that asked whether or not she had a boyfriend. Okay, so for Rezzed.TV and the Phoenix Hour, I am Phelan Fairchild, and with me is the lovely Jessica Lyon. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back not next Tuesday, but Tuesday after that, discussing more on the Phoenix viewer development. Thank you, everybody. I hope you had a great Halloween, and have a lovely 2 weeks. Bye-bye.